Have you ever stood in the grocery store, staring at a shelf of cereal, completely unable to decide which one to buy? Or opened your closet only to feel oddly overwhelmed by picking out a shirt? Maybe you've reached the end of your workday and your spouse asks, "What do you want for dinner?" And your honest answer is, "I don't care. You decide." If that sounds familiar, you're not becoming lazy and you're not losing your mind. You may be experiencing something researchers call decision fatigue. As we move into our 40s, 50s, and beyond, many people notice that everyday choices seem to require more mental effort than they once did. It's easy to blame aging alone, but the reality is much more interesting. Sleep quality, chronic stress, information overload, and the natural changes that occur in the brain all combined to make our mental energy a much more limited resource than it was 20 years ago. On today's episode, I'd like to explore why that happens and, more importantly, what we can do about it. I'm Jay, and this is Somnilopod. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am so glad that you're taking a few minutes to spend with me today, talking about something that's probably driven us each a little insane on occasion. Those times when mental fatigue just overwhelm us. So let's begin with the science. Our brains are constantly making decisions. Some are obvious: what to eat, what to wear, whether to answer an email. But thousands of decisions happen automatically throughout the day. Every conversation requires judgment, every text message requires interpretation, every work meeting demands attention, planning, and self-control. The part of the brain responsible for this type of work is the prefrontal cortex. It's often described as the brain's executive office because it manages planning, organization, attention, emotional regulation, impulse control, and complex decision making. Like any muscle, this system becomes less effective when it's overwhelmed. Early research suggested that willpower functioned almost like a fuel tank that gradually emptied throughout the day. Now, while scientists now believe the process is much more complex than simply running out of mental energy, there is broad agreement that sustained cognitive effort reduces our ability to make decisions thoughtfully. As mental fatigue builds, the brain increasingly relies on habits, shortcuts, and the easiest available option rather than analysis. That's why by evening, we're more likely to order takeout instead of cooking, or skip exercise, or mindlessly scroll through our phones. Now add midlife to that equation. Beginning in our 40s, the brain undergoes gradual structural and chemical changes. Processing speed slows slightly, working memory becomes somewhat less effective, and multitasking becomes more mentally demanding. These are normal aspects of healthy aging, not signs of dementia, but they mean the brain has less reserve for handling constant demands. Sleep makes an enormous difference. During healthy sleep, especially deep sleep and REM or REM sleep, the brain restores itself in remarkable ways. Memories are organized, neural connections are strengthened or trimmed, metabolic waste is cleared away through the brain's glymphatic system. Emotional experiences are processed, helping us wake up better able to regulate our mood and think clearly. When sleep is shortened or fragmented, the prefrontal cortex doesn't function at its best. Research consistently shows that even modest sleep restriction impairs attention, working memory, cognitive flexibility, reaction time, and decision making. People who are sleep deprived also tend to become more impulsive, less patient, and more likely to overlook risks. The frustrating part is that many people don't fully recognize how impaired they are after several nights of poor sleep. They begin to feel that their reduced mental sharpness is normal. Stress also creates another layer of difficulty. Whenever we're under chronic stress, our bodies produce elevated cortisol as well as other stress hormones, and these hormones are useful in short bursts, but prolonged exposure shifts the brain towards survival mode. Instead of thoughtful planning, the brain prioritizes immediate problem solving and emotional reactions. Have you ever noticed that when you're overwhelmed, even simple questions feel irritating? What should we have for dinner? Which route should we take? What color should we paint the room? None of these decisions are particularly important, but they can feel exhausting. That's because your executive system has been juggling hundreds of competing demands all day long. Now, let's add one more factor that's unique to modern life. Our parents never carried a device that interrupted them every few minutes. Today's average adult checks notifications, emails, social media, weather reports throughout the day. Every notification forces the brain to pause, reorient, and make another decision. Should I answer this now? Can it wait? Is it that important? What article should I click? Should I respond? Each interruption seems small, but together they create what psychologists call cognitive overload. The brain spends so much time switching tasks that it never fully settles into deep, focused thinking. The encouraging news is that decision fatigue isn't something that we simply have to accept. There are some surprising ways to reduce it. One strategy is to eliminate unnecessary decisions. Many highly productive people wear similar clothing each day, prepare meals ahead of time, or establish consistent routines, not because they lack creativity, but because they want to preserve their mental energy for decisions that truly matter. Routines are not boring. They're energy-saving devices for the brain. Sleep should become a non-negotiable priority. Improving sleep duration and sleep quality supports attention, memory, emotional regulation, and that executive functioning the following day. Even gaining an extra 30 to 60 minutes of quality sleep each night can improve cognitive performance over time. Another powerful tool is limiting multitasking. Now, despite what many of us believe, the brain doesn't truly multitask. Instead, it rapidly switches between tasks, and every switch carries a mental cost. Working on one thing at a time often feels slower, but it usually produces better results with far less exhaustion. Creating quiet moments throughout the day, that can also help. A brief walk without your phone, 5 minutes of slow breathing, looking out the window instead of scrolling social media. These small pauses allow the brain's attentional systems to recover before fatigue accumulates. Finally, give yourself permission to make important decisions when your brain is freshest. For many people, that's within the first few hours of waking. Save routine tasks for later in the day and protect your best mental energy for work that is truly deserving of it. The truth is that life after 40 isn't necessarily harder because we're aging. It's harder because we're asking our brains to process more information, manage more responsibilities, recover from less sleep, and remain consistently connected than any previous generation. Decision fatigue isn't a personal weakness, it's a signal that your brain has been working incredibly hard. When we understand how sleep, stress, aging, all of that influences our executive function, we can stop blaming ourselves for feeling mentally drained and start building habits that support the remarkable organ between our ears. And perhaps the greatest lesson in this, protecting your mental energy is just as important as protecting your physical energy. Because sometimes the healthiest decision you'll make today is deciding that not every decision needs to be made today. And that's something we can all probably use a little more often. I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm really enjoying getting into the routine of this expanded topic and always trying to find how it's related back to sleep. So I'm enjoying that myself. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to contact me. You can reach me at j@somnilopod.com. And I just realized, that's J-A-Y, not just the letter J. j@somnilopod.com, or you can reach me through any of the socials. Please remember to check out the YouTube channel. I add some additional content there that sort of expands some of the knowledge that we have in these podcasts. So, until we meet again, please remember to make sleep a priority. Thanks so much.